All right.
Oh, she's just in tears. She's beside herself.
Hey, how's it going?
I didn't get any indigestion or vomit yesterday, so it must have been okay.
Oh, well, it's a good sign.
Okay.
No worries.
And especially doubly happy now.
Praise to Manjushri. All right, so we start with praise to Manjushri, everyone. To Manjushri, the causes his heart and protects and waters of the things as it is. Concerning Shah's thoughts at the same time. Jesus, what in the suffering world is Christ.
Who has been pure from the beginning, O Manjushri, all loving one, of the brilliance of your wisdom, illuminate the darkness enclosing my mind and light my wisdom, so that I may gain insight into the Buddha's words and the texts that explain them.
chedan sojin chonala chanchu bardu dame kyabsu dagi chirji jibi sonum yin rolam sanjim chokora sanji chedan sojin chonala chanchu bardu dame kyabsu dagi chirji jibi sonum yin rolam sanjim chokora sanji chedan sojin chonala Dani Jazu Ji, Dani Ji, Sonu, Roland Benji, Sanjin Drubara, Shu, Kanki Tuzi Nizone, Tawa Tamji, Pambish, Tambichun, Dunze, Kodon Kela, Chanze, Lo. Good morning. The cousin something you ever said. You ever be Japanese. Such a thing good to
So good morning, everyone. We're going to pick up from the point that we left off yesterday. We're going to look at an explanation of the divisions of the mind of enlightenment using analogies. So that is starting from verse 16.
In the study of the Tsultrim question, the Tsultrim role, the Eva big one is long with and this one is the and he Chanju Samaya, Eva number needy, Benan the digital sales and Titonita, Chanju Sam, Eva number needy carry and Minju down, member Simki down, Juba Simki. So doing the Minju and Carson Minju down, Juxems.
So teaching the mind of enlightenment by means of analogy, or the distinction of the mind of enlightenment by means of analogy, would mean employing analogies to illustrate the two, the aspiring mind of enlightenment and then the engaging mind of enlightenment.
Tirdadi ani the Minju Kabardi. Then drawer and dead on drawing, Chedar Shibatar. Tejin keeping Dinigi, Chedar Shibar Chase.
So verse 16 reads, as it is understood by the instances of desiring to go and going, so the wise should understand respectively the distinction between these two. That's verse 16.
Redadipe Jatan Dicham Kamachik Shuna Madok Chatangi, Lelhaudos Ross Pay in Jevena Inchitola Lelhawi Kanji Nanzuchi Yul Shenjilaya Dro Goguyanas Dro Debikaki Drevi Chavala Mazamba Kombopoela Soba Kanji and Nan Matem Konki Pig Chavachikda and turned Drevi Kaki. Malay part of Drevi Chavani Yoros, the Dini Pejan and Sungdos.
Geshe feels that this analogy is easy to understand. The translation into English is easy, it's simple. If we look at the commentary, it's also quite simple to understand. To cut to the chase, the difference between the two is in terms of whether when you're moving from one place to another, whether you have started doing that, right? So there might be an intention to move to another place. You haven't done that yet. You haven't started walking yet. You haven't moved away from your own house. So that's one case versus haven't started to do that.
Samdang, Juxum Jarwandi, that member Simgi, member Simgi, then won the Jig Shingo Lasra, won Jigshi, D, any Drevi Chavala, Zembikaki, any Betedan Mashinki, and Delia 20 chat. And Juba Simgi said, Savi is Semgi Gimondi, and Ejig Semgi the Chigbar was. The Inaya Yichugi Semgini would be member same case long the piglia same kebasam ro simjan tamji kichedu lame zozen di komban and toba chanyam bigi same kebasam de and member same case ro member same case.
So having generated the intention to go, but not having started to go yet, is the aspiring man of enlightenment. Whereas when the activity of walking or going has been initiated, at that time, the man of enlightenment is an engaging man of enlightenment. So in terms of the man of enlightenment, it is the same man of enlightenment in the sense that it is the mind that is intent on attaining the state of omniscience for the sake of all sentient beings. But when the activity has not been initiated yet, it is the aspiring mind. Whereas if the activity has been initiated, you're doing the activity. At that point, it is the engaging mind of enlightenment.
Chawal zombi kap mayimba, chawal ngusun jubi kap, ra sem keba tsam mayimba, ani chi gyasi chanju sembigi, ani choba jinso pashin chuki nyamne, tadi sonsha jinso pashin chuki nyamne la soba, kanji tsu di, ani chanju sembigi, domba sonyati, ra, pigi, ani nge samja tamji ki chedo sanji kuma to shobs, ani chi memba tsam mayimba, di chawal ngusun jubi lunga gi choba karka goyana kadum chegi ani mus tombalem kapki semge di juba semge res.
So the engaging mind of enlightenment is using the word to engage. So it's not just initiating a certain action, it is engaging in that action. So it's not a simple mind generation. It is at the time of engaging the activity, the practices of the Bodhisattvas, the 6 perfections, such as the perfection of generosity. So you have taken the Bodhisattva vow, and you have committed to attain the state of omniscience. So it's not just to make that promise or to make the pledge to attain the state of omniscience for the sake of all sentient beings. It is also to engage what is to be taken up and what you need to stop doing or what you need to refrain from in pursuing the state of enlightenment. So performing those activities, or at the time of performing those activities, the man of enlightenment is an engaging man of enlightenment.
Rong Lu Kin Drovi Chave Masimbi Yurti Drover Chawanyambi Yurti Drover Dubi Lota Kamba Denjo So Drovi Chave Simbi Tuki Yuter Drover Nyambi Louis Chetak Yulte Drover Nyambi Lo Tsongkyang Drovi Chave Simbata Masimbi Kabariyava Chetar Shibatar Petejin Kebi Minjuk Semgi Dingi Chetar Mbasindu Shibar Chadi, Shendundu Sangi Tobar Chow Nyambi, Samsu Sombala, Jinso Pajin Choba Nyamsulembi Chavi Sumbala, Tu Mugubi Riksu Nebatan, Tele Tu Gubi Riksu Nebo, Feven Kamalas So, Kebanam, Sheban Radi, Matre Souls.
So in that vein, looking at the commentary of Geshe Rinchen, we're looking at explaining the divisions but with example or using an analogy. The analogy is of wishing to go and going. So the commentary, after all, we've already read through the verse, it says, the mind that thinks, I want to go to that place while resting and not being held by the action of going, and the mind that thinks, I shall go to that place while being held by the action of going, are the same in being an awareness that thinks, I shall go to that place. The difference lies with being held or not being held by the action of going. Now, when the translation said being held or not being held, another way of saying that, whether it is qualified by going or not qualified by going. The respective difference between the wishing and engaging mind generation should be understood by those that are proficient in the same way. They are the same in being the mind that thinks I shall attain enlightenment for the welfare of others, but one of them does not depend on being held or qualified by the practice of the perfection of generosity and so forth, and one does depend on that. The master Kamalashila and others explained it in the same way, so I will not elaborate.
Sim masing tone and the Minju Cabati Song dos. Dinza, the Jobanyamling Chawazudi Yasichanju Simbigita, Nyamne Pigiri Chanju Simbi Dombe, Domba Song Tone, and Jinso Pashin Chuki, and Nyamne Kari Yobati. Gas changes in young ladies that Dindiji is so much. Since long, the Dindiji the young bios, same give us a month, but the same gig me Tobja Tadu was Sangi compound Riagi Tablaya, and most shoot them at Dindiji. Go res, Jubasangila.
Just a most simple than level.
The singing shall be most things low that. Near the Korang Ton, Rajana.
Which means that for the mind of enlightenment to be the engaging mind of enlightenment, it needs to be qualified by the activity. So to begin with, for it to be the engaging mind of enlightenment, the person needs to have the Bodhisattva vow in the mind stream. That's the first criteria. The second criteria is that the mind of enlightenment needs to be qualified by the practices of bodhisattvas, such as the 6 perfections, which means that when you have this scenario of those things coming together, so you have the mind of enlightenment, the mind stream of that person. That person also has the vow in the mind stream, and also they practice the conduct, the 6 perfections. In that sense, it is qualified. The mind of enlightenment is qualified by the practice of the 6 perfections. This is the engaging mind of enlightenment.
The dinza da ani ona dingilia keba kariyores peyu chani keba kariyore sega sota yungras dire so disungda sumba ani menju ni ki peyu kebar shebala nis ra semge imba chonaya ani jobanyamni ki chayo simasing tone keba shago di keba che di ani karjin res keba kariyores ani sena ani peyu kebariyores menju ni la peyu kebariyores.
So we, first of all, made a distinction between the aspiring and engaging mind of enlightenment in terms of whether it is qualified by the practice of the conduct or not. So you might wonder, what's the point in making that distinction? Why are we making that distinction? So the next verse, verse 17, is explaining that there is a difference in the benefits between the aspiring and engaging mind of enlightenment. And because the benefit that you get from them is different, there is a point in making that distinction between whether the mind of enlightenment is qualified by the practice of the conduct or not. So the next section in our text is coming under the heading of explaining the difference in benefits of the wishing and engaging mind. So we have a couple of points: the benefits of the wishing mind, and or aspiring mind, and the benefits of the engaging mind.
샘기비 도지를 묻지네 된다 차야 년도다 랑산기기 연den기 겐탐지 시기내지 잔주스미 미염 들라 코와 탐지내게 넘어도고 시송바다를 시송바다를 아니 레
So we'll first of all look at the benefits of the aspiring man of enlightenment. So there are a couple of verses in that section. We'll begin with verse 17 that says, though from the wishing or aspiring man of enlightenment, great benefit arises while circling continual merit similar to the mind of engaging does not arise. So from the liberation of the superior jumper, it says, son of the lineage, it is like this. For example, the precious diamond, though broken, outshines the supreme ornaments of gold and so forth, still keeps the name precious diamond and eliminates all poverty. Son of the lineage, likewise, the precious diamond of the mind generation for omniscient knowledge, even without significance, outshines the gold of the qualities of the hearers and self-liberators or solitary realizers. It keeps the name of Bodhisattva and eliminates all the poverty of cyclic existence. As quoted, though a great result arises from being in cyclic existence from the mind wishing for enlightenment, the aspiring mind, and similar uninterrupted stream of merits as that which arises from the engaging mind does not arise.
샘기비 리기브 대신도 탐진 캠바 샘기비 돌저를 묻지 내된다 차이한세디 내된 비카레스나 비기게 아니 자식 줘봐야 무슨 라원디다 내된 쇼차고라스 딘지 아니 매너야 샘디 깨는 뭐 아니 내된다 아니 차이야 비기다 직 냐라는 소바 대탐집에 아니 리기고네 시기넨드버레스 데자마세 아니 가디는다 자스 찬주 셈바세기 아니 직 센라 소바 균이 도레메바 로 딘디지레스 다 페디 델라우다로
Kuna nenten karis
네덴세
the
네덴스 셈게니다 네덴 카르치고스라나 자식 줘발인 주브.
So then, from the liberation of the superior jumper, it says, son of the lineage, it is like this. For example, the precious diamond, though broken, outshines the supreme ornaments of gold and so forth, still keeps the name precious diamond and eliminates all poverty. Son of the lineage, likewise, the precious diamond of mind generation for omniscient knowledge, even without significance. So this significance here is referring to the practice of bodhisattvas. So one has generated the mind of enlightenment. And through the generation of mind of enlightenment, one outshines, hears, and solitary realizes. But as the commentary says here, it's not that they only outshine, hears, and solitary realizes just by way of generating mind of enlightenment. Likewise, the precious diamond of the mind generation for omniscient knowledge, even without significance, which means even without the practice of the bodhisattvas, outshines the gold of the qualities of hearers and solitary realizers. It keeps the name of bodhisattvas and eliminates all the poverty of sentient beings.
아니 배율 납치하고 여바티 로 현손이 나야 아니 배율 딘딘디 요레스 대이나야 자베나노라 찬주미비 셈리니 코르신 데부 친종야스 코위네 거수 직 아니 남민기 데블로 소바 아니 직 저단 자침부 슈 용그레스 제들은 주비 셈젠도 손음 규미체 손음 괜찮 종하면서 이나야한다고 주바 셈게 게토바 나신기 아니 손음 그대로 아니 균제메발레 토그레스나 티오마레스 케버티.
So you have generated the aspiring man of enlightenment, and even without training, just by generating it, you get such great merit, such great benefit. But still, the commentary says, in following up on the verse, that it is still not the same amount of merit that you would get from the engaging mind of enlightenment. So let's look at this section. As quoted, the great result arises from while being in cyclic existence. So you have ripening result that arises while being in cyclic existence from the mind wishing for enlightenment, the aspiring mind. A similar uninterrupted stream of merits as that which arises from the engaging mind does not arise.
제 잔줄도 maybe 셈리는 코와는 니비체 제부 친분 종양 제대로 주비 셈리 쏘는 발마체도 종아 현도 쏘는 균 체바 균 발마체도 종미노스
Yes, I'll write through that section again.
Okay, yeah, 니만 also do that.
Okay.
또 니바 아니 어나 가서 죽sem래야 델리게 아니 라브 채워지 딱 가리어리 세우즈레 가리어리 신나다 죽sem 그 표현이 강내 손데 심진 감 타이럽 드르위체 못어바이 셈지수 셈데 양다 랑키르바 데니 손데 니로컴 방미 교견 소놈슈 겸체바 두마시 남간냠바 랍진 종스.
That being the case, you might wonder, what's the goal with the engaging mind of enlightenment? So the next section in the text says, in explaining the benefits of the engaging mind of enlightenment, whoever from the time they perfectly generate with an irreversible attitude, the mind to liberate the infinite realms of sentient beings, from then on, although they sleep or become reckless, manifold merits of uninterrupted power equaling space strongly arise.
제다디나올라야다 자위기던 제베나 용구라다 그냥 간이 송데스라운데 두 간이 송데 다지 아니 인생 아니 쇼바고 뭐딱 간이 계란다 지 멤버 semgel라 인주바 아니 죽숨께바 두 간이 송데 아니 심전 탐지 기체도 그라 심전 다지 남가든 냠비다 심전 탐지 아니 코와당가 송 내리 쳐봐 타와다 탐지 김이 공부하는 그 위치도 아니 샘 갸침부 깨반니 송데 아니 가도 이나야 걔나 니로는자 아니 가르쳐 봐이나 아니 손은 괜찮게 봐요 그랬어.
From the moment you generate the engaging mind of enlightenment, so during all parts of the day, during the morning, day, night, and so forth, since you have created that vast and extensive generated mind that is aiming at leading all sentient beings that extend to the reaches of space to the state of liberation or the state of enlightenment, whatever you do will create this uninterrupted flow of merit.
네, 단일로 zaman 방매번 유비값이나야. 즉 아니 당한주 방매번 유비값 마음 쇼지. 네, 용거라서 네 딘지값이 뭐이나야. 아니 전주샘기 배우디 아니 종종 말했어.
Let alone you will still be accumulating merit while you're asleep. Also, the text says that while being unconscientious, you will still be accumulating merit. So we have so many occasions of being unconscientious during the day. And the benefit of the engaging mind of enlightenment is explained as such that even in those occasions, there will still be an uninterrupted flow of merit.
terdiza ani juba semkeni ni lobe kap phame kap ta dindi kala ya pen ni lobe kala ya ani semke di ani manzu kala ya ta ngondu kyuwi yo maros inati kala ya ta ko semke ni gyum pharmache de yoinza ani ta shung kashi la ta di dokjuro ta kashi la ya 그 자위 냠는 무슨고 세디 근데 자원무지 제와디 나오려야 제롬지 레시 신지만 장친 저번에 자위 선반이 죽었는지 샤그레스 어딘데서 저번 냠는 자위 죽돔 토반이 지네 죽음 샤그레스
So here this section is saying that even while you're asleep, you'll still be accumulating merit. Merit will still arise. So it's a source of debate, it's a source of questions in different texts. So explaining and debating the engaging mind of enlightenment, there are different definitions that explain that. One definition says that the mind of enlightenment needs to be explicitly qualified by the practice of the conduct. Thank you. So this explicitly qualified by the practice of the conduct is mentioned in some verses. Is there anything happening? All right. So there might be like a surprise party. Or... So in some texts it says that the engaging mind of enlightenment, it is the mind of enlightenment that is explicitly qualified by the practice of the conduct. Some say that it doesn't have to be explicitly qualified by the practice of the conduct. After all, when you're asleep, the mind of enlightenment is not manifest, right? So then, that being the case, when you look at, for example, the way that His Honest the Dalai Lama explaining that in drawing from Lama Tsongkhapa's Golden Rosary, they say that once you have taken the engaging vow, from that point onward, you have the engaging mind of enlightenment.
아니 팽유디 세로 잡아야나 저다 세 준이 샤드메비 아니 베디 수징기 추우스로 진바이나 베디 아니 남카 칸데 어딘지기 팽유를 지고 요르스.
So if such has such great benefit, if you try to quantify that great benefit, it would be difficult to give it a measure. If it were to take a physical form, it would be completely filling the space in front of you.
ni lokum raro soji pame ban györgen sonumji shuk tu günce meba tumaşik se namkada nyamba rabdun jongde hünsun debala dönir zamdu sela jusum sanji gü zopa dripi symbols.
Let's read through the commentary to verse 19. Or actually verses 18 and 19. So it says, whoever, from the moment they perfectly generate the engaging mind, not to reverse from the purpose of others for as long as cyclic existence lasts, to completely liberate all realms of beings and place them in a state of enlightenment. From then on, whether they sleep or become reckless, unconscientious, with intoxication and so forth, they will still create a manifold, uninterrupted power of merit as vast as space. This is because the wishing mind, the aspiring mind, is generated merely through aspiring to the result, while the engaging mind is held by the practice of completing the causes for enlightenment.
manzu aradonge mawaraza da raksawayna ya kepsanji doasro da jidang namju raksawala ya kepsan chi yomarda semturu inaya ani judam thobsangi ji raksawayna ani kepsan rag doasro.
So here it says that even while you're asleep or when you're intoxicated in being unconscientious or reckless, right? So since that here in Australia, in Australian culture, many people get intoxicated, which is not beneficial. But with the engaging mind, even while you're intoxicated, you will still be getting that benefit.
다 먼저 잠시 비우라.
So we have some morning tea. So for those of you at home, if you're also holding on to your cup of tea, we can now offer it.
제 현재 몇번째로 나온 데는 단다 라스인데 되어는 초바 인증 비고 그랬어. 라 가서나 70분 줬다도 쳐버 비스라. 74째 통구 여바이네야. 아니 군절라야 마피나? 아니 캠르 영인디 캠르 라우자단 간로 거라스.
So for those of you at home, even if you're intoxicated at the moment, still make those offerings. Make those offerings. After all, when you're eating something, when you're drinking something, first and foremost, you need to offer it to the three jewels. If you don't do that, that violates the training in going for refuge, right? So when we have gone for refuge and we take up the training in going for refuge, they said that one should first offer the best portion of food and drink to the three jewels. So even if you're intoxicated, still you need to make those offerings, otherwise you'd be violating your trainings of refuge.
Enjoy. 다 숨바 텔라 페요 대단 중에 괜찮은 니스 롱거바다 산지 롱거바다 저 좀된 데랑 게 손에 단 도그로 아니 리그레트버스.
So first of all, we have established that there is a difference between the two minds of enlightenment in terms of the benefit that you get from them. And then we need to prove it. So there are two ways of proving that. One of them is through scriptural citations, and the second is through reasoning. So we'll begin with scriptural citation taken from the Buddha Sutras in order to see that there is a scriptural source that explains the difference in terms of benefit between this aspiring and engaging mind of enlightenment. So that would be from verse 20 onwards. So looking at the text, the next section is the reason for these benefits arising, setting the quotation, proving it through sutra source, and then establishing it with reasoning.
네, 테바 당제발 락상 긴 슈발레 매매 숨진 된기세 대신 셰바 니기 송스 자와들이.
In stating the quotation, it says that this has validity, was taught by the Tathagata in the Subbahu Purcha for those aspiring for the lesser. The Subbahu Purcha is the sutra requested by Subbahu.
일단 되어도서 되겠다. 죽셈 되는 페이 대다다 덴바 테바 리바다 제바 찬주셈바 라상기 좀 된데요 시비기 렌레 도텔레 디시셰바니기 송수 강기 치드나 년퇴 릭망이와 카지 소자침부 소바는 직신 타치카와는 카와슬라운디 셈슈 차르야나 소 인고라스 타딘딜란 직신 테버 침불라 셈 로네 년퇴지 찬주 된데니와 memberla maybe simjinki tengi chedes memberla meba doni teba chimbulan gobi chedu sonsos.
First of all, the commentary, Shantideva says there's a source for that in the sutra requested by Subhahu. Now, explaining that, it says that it is valid that the engaging mind has these benefits was established by the Tathagata himself in the sutra requested by the Bodhisattva Subhahu with reasoning. Why did he do this? It was for those sentient beings who are inclined to the lesser, which means to the lesser vehicle, such as a person whose here lineage is not definite, but who is afraid of accumulating vast merit, in a sense that they might lose courage in thinking that they have to do it from one lifetime to the next, over such long times, from one in to the next. They might lose heart or lose courage. And thus, they turn away from the Mahayana path and aspire to the here enlightenment. It was to help them give up their inclination to the lesser so that they could be placed in the Mahayana.
Kawa Mambulaya, Kawa Chekori, Sosakor, Jabajangor Slawandi, and it to you Rimbu showed the two Samari, Samni, and it seems you charger Soba. That you some Tamjig Tendrokor Slawandi, and young seems you charger Soba, Kanji Tabachim Chile, Lolon, Tingmin Ki, and it Chanju turning to Solaya. And Tabachimbolan Govichedo, and Chanjusimi Payodi, Chanjusengu Payodi, so and Jugosengi Payodi, and John the Solo Goni, Payod Sonres, Sonyores, Dotel.
So it is possible that someone will become discouraged in thinking of how much hard work they need to put into those practices, the amount of accumulations they need to assemble, how many purifications they need, how many obscurations they need to purify, to the point in which they will think that I cannot do it, it is beyond my powers. Or they might be thinking that I need to work for the sake of all sentient beings and this is too hard. And in that sense, they will lose courage and will decide to attain the hero's enlightenment instead. So then in order to prevent them from becoming so discouraged, the Buddha discoursed on the benefits of the engaging mind of enlightenment. The Buddha taught the benefits of the mind of enlightenment in order to make those who might get discouraged in that way engage in the Mahayana.
Rather, Palme Kavinare, or Dindika Tamjali, Sonam Junjemi, Junguri Slawandi, then the Tanganzo in the Simshu Parsara.
So if you think about it, if we're still going to have an uninterrupted flow of merit, even while we're asleep, or when we're being unconscientious, it would be something that will help us to lift our mind. It also happens to us that we get discouraged, right?
If that long ma sombazam, yan jugia ched son resla on the chick, Nanzo Kavkalaya, Gogordam Sorachi, Ra, and Tinditsa in the Martas, Telia Gunzayers, Rigbayers, Ra, Sombazam Telia, and Gabding Gunzayers, Gunzen Namdayers, that Rigvidruva said, Ra.
Now, don't take these scriptural citations to mean that in order to prevent that discouragement, the Buddha tricks us sometimes, every once in a while, just in order to spur us on, to make us more enthused. Don't think that it is just something that the Buddha said half-heartedly or half-handedly in tricking us. There's also a reason that supports that assertion that even while you're asleep or being unconscientious, there will still be an uninterrupted flow of merit from the engaging mind of enlightenment.
That Rigvidrubalani, Munsum le Peyu Tobi, Tebatan, Juxum le Tobi, 태바오 당보 면숨리 페유 토비 태발라시 개와드비 젤레 타이비 페유 치와다 대비 타비 펜슨 셴메바다 잔주 셈레다 타비 펜슨 좀 메바다 심젠 나오는 진지기 펜슨 람딘티야 마키바다 죽두딩 하보스.
So let's look at a reasoning that supports this position. Establishing by reasoning is divided into two main points: the validity of the benefits of the wishing mind and the validity of the benefits of the engaging mind of enlightenment. First off, when we begin with the validity of the benefits of the aspiring, the wishing mind of enlightenment, there are 4 points. Great benefit because of infinite applications for virtue. There is no higher concern for others. That's the second point. The third is sentient beings do not generate such a concern even for their own purpose. And the fourth one is phrasing it as a summary. We'll begin with the first point that explains the validity of the benefits of the aspiring mind of enlightenment, which covers 2 verses, 21 and 22.
담보 개와드비 젤렌 타이비 페연치와네 심젠 남기 렌이점 살론함도 삼나양스 펜도 삼바 단덴디 소놈 밤에 덴규나 심제 리리 메데와 파도 메바 살더지 리리 용된 밤에도 제번데비 뮤치고스
Let's read through that section. It says, with a great benefit because of infinite application for virtue. Even if one thinks I shall alleviate just the headache of sentient beings, since it has the intent to benefit, one becomes endowed with boundless merits. What need is there to mention the wish to alleviate the boundless unhappiness of each sentient beings and to establish each of them in boundless qualities?
제 너무디 제와드마 지로서나 데벤 자위 부메달 미남 야총웨 심젠 남기 레니점 살로 힘도 삼나양 셴란 펜도베 삼바데 덴디 소놈 빠두메바 덴반규르나스 심젠 리리기 미데와 빠두메바 사원되지 심젠 리리 산지기 용데 빠두메바 드번데발라 소놈 타이바디다 셴무고 바라와스.
The captain daughter of a friend, though generating only the limited thought, may I free sentient beings from the headaches, had a true concern for others that generated infinite merit. If that is so, then what need is there to mention that the wish to eliminate infinite unhappiness of each sentient being and to establish each of them with the infinite qualities of the Buddha has limitless merits?
다디게 가르송고레 슬라운디 데빈 자위 부모 생인디 아니 비기 다지 야부지기 부모 야부이다 아니 다기치무 쇼라다 부모님만 찍려야 아니 감수 퍼르려야 아니 노벨랭가 조기스 당 퉁힘이 계절아 노벨랭가 조기스 아니 로보 마모님 두 조기스 나온디 아마기 부모 짜치무 쇼 징기 연자 짜치무 쇼 치고연자 아니 아멘타 캐나 만로 캐나 드나 아니 녀가 침보리 수 아니 양양아니 따지 투야 마투야 시리스 만로스 아망문 아니 감발라 탐두 쇼니 부모 조긴 슬라치 쫄라 아멘골에 짜주슈 아마 템바 토드레이서로 아니 아마 템바는 부모 조샤도다 부모 조니 비긴 조온디기다 아니 가르소다 다 디나 디바라 망보다 간지 낀지 토네 아니 아멘골에 짜주슈비 나멘기 아니 범인골이야 아니 짝 콜로 수지 나자 슈 땅다 뭐 나자 슈 땅디 그 뭐다지 아니 로또 지 돈다 심전 탐지기 고 나사디 니인디 세토버쇼스 니기 ngal natsa tang di tu seto shows sambi lu tobji pe ninji de chanju sem so chong tu yasra da dirda lene zam se shows sam simja tamji gi lebi natsa zam se shows sambi lo tobji gi pe dindi ji yoba na simja tamji gi juji dunga yongsu zoba seven de bata dewa yongsu zoba driven debi lu ki tobji gewa padu meba tse meba yongya di ribi drib tukura se warta.
So this section in the commentary speaks of the captain daughter of a friend. Though generating only the limited thought, may I free sentient beings from their headache, had a true concern for others that generated infinite merit. So this story is telling about a daughter of a king, right? So she was very well off, very wealthy. So the princess was very wealthy, in short. And one day she decided to sail across the ocean with a band of sailors in order to find treasures, in order to dig up precious jewels and so forth. Her mother was very concerned about this upcoming trip, and she implored her daughter not to sail across the ocean. She said, it's going to be very dangerous. We might not see each other again. She was even kind of lying on the ground and hugging her daughter's legs, trying to prevent him from going away. But the daughter was so determined to the point where she got upset with her mother one day for beseeching her, imploring her not to go. And she took a piece of iron, an iron bar, and she smacked a mother on the head. So a mother fell unconscious. The princess still went ahead with the plan, and she sailed across the ocean. And because of this negative action of smacking a mother with an iron bar on the head, a mother falling unconscious, one day, as a maturation result, an iron will grew up in her head, or from her head, which gave rise to an intense degree of pain. So at that point, that wheel, yeah, it's my accent again, I reckon. An iron wheel grew up in her head, or from her head, giving her a massive headache. And she thought to herself at that point, due to this pain that I'm experiencing at the moment, may I be able to take upon myself the headache of all sentient beings? And it is said in that story that having the thought of, may I take upon myself the suffering, the headache of all sentient beings, may I free them from that headache, she accumulated this great degree of merit. So if that is valid with respect to the suffering of just a mere headache of sentient being, even more than that, you should think of the merit that one will accumulate through thinking that I shall free all sentient beings from all of their suffering. So that's the reason that it's used in order to establish that point.
Sanglo tangdang ta ji zo ji ne song do da xin nyam ji se nam do ngan zu ta nam ji ne tong len gong dang jara su su le ya ji ngan zu mi se na lo le ya ka du kari na che do sa ka du kari na che go ta ani che le che go chong che go ta kari ka du che ba na ka du ti la mi chi ni ani 남기타다님 심전 탐지기다 덴레위 까두 강요받디 아니 디 또기 세바쇼 삼이 상도지 땅토바이나 아니 하정 개월랍 침보 소자심 소고여받다 아니 롱 드솔 때니다 복투고라스라 먼저 복투도 라.
So we have here a scriptural citation, certain quotation, right? So we practice equalizing and exchanging self with others. And within that, there is the practice of tonglen, giving and taking. So at a time in which we experience difficulties and pain, it might be that for those great, they experience great pain. For those small, they experience small pain. Now, whatever it might be the degree of pain that is experienced, small or big, when we think, by me experiencing that, may that serve to alleviate the suffering of all sentient beings that extend to the reaches of space, you will be creating powerful merit, and you will be accumulating a vast accumulation of the collections. That can be inferred from such scriptural citation that we've just read through, that is speaking about the daughter of the captain.
Dirda lene tsam se dirda lebi nasa tsamgi samja thamji lebi nasa tsam sewan devgi ani loki undi ki kya pa tu ba yona thamji ki gyuji dunga thamji sewan devata deva thamji drubon devi ki loji kina tadile phe cheji mebada tatsawni misiwaro tadile phe cheji yomaris.
So then when you think of the benefit of the aspiring man of enlightenment as explained here, if there is such great merit that is developed through thinking, may I free all sentient beings from their headache, even more so when you try to quantify the amount of merit that you will get from thinking of setting all sentient beings in a state of happiness and liberating them from all of their suffering. Needless to say that you will not be able to even quantify that great degree of merit.
Renganzu kazan shuba nanshinki, manzu gewa druya tiya, gewa diya, iya kunjo la tempi, ini gewa chikta, ma simje la tempi, gewa chiki, gewa ni strong ilbasta, labcheshu gewa dingi rendas, ta dingi ka lo, ani chanju sem nang sundugor, ra gewa drusa ki yul samalo la ya, 미비기 개와 연구열에 아니 차츠사 초보 표사기 율 용수 조발의 미비 아니 개와 연구열에 간지 개와 용수 조비기 아니 domdi chanju semkiati tichagores ra.
We spoke yesterday of the avenues for creating virtue. We said that you created other with respect to the jewels, which are elevated, or sentient beings, which are or other sentient beings. So these two avenues for creating virtue, the jewels and sentient beings, are included within the man of enlightenment. Whatever virtue we create through making prostrations, making offerings, and so forth, all such virtues are included within the man of enlightenment, and therefore the virtue that is created by the man of enlightenment cannot be surpassed by other types of virtue. It is an unsurpassable virtue that you create through generating bodhicitta.
Deni da niba delil habigi pensum sheme baset. Da yaji gadamra da delil habi pensum chanju semil habi da pembi sambaji da misigwares da never kandas never is laundi palm yana maya rong sulan dinji pensum yu lada transon nam rong sambalayan di yotams.
The second point in that section explains that there is no higher concern for others. You can say there's no higher concern or no higher benefit for others, or altruistic intention. There's no higher altruistic intention for others. So regardless of whether it is father or mother who has such intent to benefit, regardless of whether God, sage, or Brahmas, do they possess it?
Nanglo la ya jik rang la ya pensum jangi yakshu di ani pamarawas pami tugyu la ya nganzo la ya pensum dindich 요래서나 디요 말았어. 먼저 지 람들기네 미싱이 파마츠 줄이야. 남술라 미 펜션 파샤네 라니 이체데야 펜션 딘디지 장 싱거 거래요 말았어.
So then looking at the argument that is used in this verse, from a worldly perspective, if you think of who is the person that has the greatest intention to benefit you, just from a worldly perspective, the ones that have the greater intention to benefit you would be your parents. They would have the highest altruistic intention with respect to you as an individual. And yet, if your parents, consider they consider only you, and if they do not know what is to be taken up and what is to be cast aside, even if they have this greatest altruistic intention with respect to you, still the ability to benefit you is quite limited if they themselves do not know what is to be taken up and what is to be cast aside. They will not be able to guide you. They will not be able to instruct you. They will not be able to help you out with taking up and casting aside if they do not know that. So in that sense, even though from a worldly perspective, they have the highest intention to benefit you, in comparison with others, still they're quite limited in their ability.
데르딘자 다 싱그멘자 라 소수 파만로진면 싱그멘자 아니 펜섬디 장 싱그멘자 펜섬딘지 요 말레스 다 소수 시온 잠발라 난주 소수 시온디 소수들이야 메바예 소수디게 아니 샘케단 싱가려야 다 미싱게 소수려야 까딘치슈 파마츠게 암조라이네 데발룩치 라 아니 지 피기게 자와들이야 무슨 만주가 있느냐 군주 삼려야 아딘지 이 삼단다 야구지도 삼비게 아니 지 샘지게 투바 있느냐 아니 개발랍신 쉬우지 싸고 왔어레스 로 되는 하가지 아니 파미까지 세야기 로탑자 딜 하가지 매비 소리지레스 로.
So if they don't know that, then the ability to help you out is quite limited. But suppose that you understand the benefit. You understand the benefits of bodhicitta. You know them. And then you just whisper it to the ears of your parents. Even if they're unable to put it into practice, even if they do not engage with practice of bodhisattva, simply by demonstrating it to others, there is a great benefit that will ensue.
데르다 하다 transon 남자로 상발라얀 디어 탐슬라온디 아니 직라 직데미 하여르다 담르 여러와스 transon 덴바마위다 직 년터 다좀 바소바이나야 아니 딘디기 독섬지 난토요 마르와스 간지 디어 탐스 요 마레스.
Let's look at the commentary to this section. It says, no one else in the transitory world has such intent to benefit. Who is a father or mother with such a wish to benefit the child, which other person has such a wish to establish supreme happiness? Not the gods, or the true speaking sages, and not the Brahmas that abide on the four immeasurable thoughts have such a mind to benefit. Geshe included within that also no hearers and solitary realizers have a mind to benefit to that degree of the mind of enlightenment.
네비 창발라야 펜섬든자 여바메토스.
It says, no one else in the transitory world has such intent to benefit. Where is a father or mother with such a wish to benefit? Has such a wish to establish supreme happiness? Not the gods, or the true speaking sages and not the Brahmas that abide on the four immeasurable thoughts have such a mind to benefit.
There that the Zugi and same Gedandi, that's the Kadun Younger was the Chanju same Gedan, Inji Gedan, Ra, and the Tevachimbu and Samlo Kedandi, and the Musundajigi Bigilaya, Kanjin Namju, Michiki Koina, Telaya, Yakura, Samsamato. Chomundu Sang Peshi Yon Messiwares. In the Chanju Samdan, Inji Gedan Pengu Xiaondi, Gawa Gom Tubaina, and a Geo Mambulaya, Nansongi, Gyuka Robadita, Tesumever was Ra, Tesumever was.
So if you think of the mind of enlightenment, if you generate the mind of enlightenment, generate compassion, if you think of them, if you think of the Mahayana, a smart person thinking of all those issues will think they are excellent, right? Compassion, the mind of enlightenment, the Mahayana are excellent. No one will think that they're totally useless. So if you rejoice in the mind generation, you put a stop for causes giving rise to birth in the lower realms.
아니 사도들이 당한지 미망치하게 난추 지기요 말에 난추 킬링이요 말에 킬링이 빼망으로 왔어. 이내야 소소소기 아니 심바디 밀레 셰바이나 미스 임바이나 지 소수기 나미 소소다 릭치바 미릭치바 딘리치기 깨지 셰바이나 망한테니 아니 semla drogoras so ni mirig miching ani chi thong manyong ji michi shebale mirig chi baji sheba na manji semla drocha da mamuji dicha goras pen susu nami chi sheba na demba songor demba zingros ro mi shemba ji sheba de samki de so ni meba tin marda tin mamu yoras ta tinza susu ge 당이 간선다 디나마라야 간저 아니 먼저 넘쇼바인사 아니 넘쇼바기 미치기 난주 지구에는 수준 남이 나마라야 패시 먼저 난주 미칭이 제려야 여러와스 진짜 난주 신인디 수준 남이 난주 미싱에 대바 난주 저단 딘디지레샤스 대한 태보 친구기 로장단디 인성로 당단 딘디지레샤스 파야고지 자자바나 이쯤 큰 난줄에 쉬고 말 난줄 맞아봐야냐 디게 대버침비 샘께다나야 엔치 샘띠니 이메기야지 정바이나 디코랑이 베 랍친 쇼이 차사레스 로
So then in thinking of such benefits of the mind of enlightenment, and considering our situation here, living in this place, living in this society, here, most people around us are not Buddhist. Most people around us in this country, let's say, do not accept Buddhism, do not follow Buddhism. But if you speak of such matters to those who are close to you, in the sense that you can speak about such matters to your family members or to those people belonging to the same nation or to the same ethnic group as you. Geshe says that assuming that you could communicate with those who are close to you or similar to you in a certain way, even if they do not see themselves as Buddhists, still by sharing what the mind of enlightenment is with them. Like, for example, think of explaining the Mahayana thought, the mind of enlightenment to your family members. Thinking of telling them about mind generation, even if they do not accept that, even if they don't put it into practice, Geshe reckons that you'd be able to communicate it in a way that will make them at least appreciate that. And that will have an effect over their mind. Dila chiwa nidu.
Teaching shen.
Nasa.
Teaching lo pishim jidan drift yeah non sir.
So Victoria is asking, what is required for Tonglen practice to become the engaging mind of enlightenment? Dila Tonglen nyamlen se di juksengi nyamlen chala chakin kare kare guyonas.
Jidan juksem di karsa men juk keba di zo juk ani chanju sem domba yomi tone shasons. Kinza Tonglen di tan juksem nyamlen chaya di ta domba yomi tone shaya di tikan rograsta.
The difference between the engaging and inspiring mind of enlightenment is posited primarily through whether you have the engaging vow in your mind stream. Right? So if you have the engaging vow in your mind stream, the practice of Tonglen is a practice of the engaging mind of enlightenment. Without the engaging vow, it is not a practice of the engaging mind of enlightenment. That's the main criteria that distinguishes between the two.
And
the second question is Alan Carter's question. So it says, Tsultrim defines virtue as that predicted and that which is differentiated and of the type which is white maturation. What does it mean to be predicted, and what does it mean to be a white maturation, and what does of the type exclude? I assume white maturation is not maturation of result. Otherwise, that would exclude the other two results, environmental and causally concordant. So, just a sec. Dila Gewarwa. Just a second. Gewala Lunda Temba Kanshi Ranjan Namin Dewa Jinjegi Jiksu Neva Sashdoa Seniditola Dende Chigitu Londo Temba Sea di Tunta Carinas Ani Yan Randre Namin Dewa Jimbe Jinjegi Jiksu Neva Sea di Riksu Neva Karitingiona Dila de pena jebula jebu mintayorwa namingi jebu ani dago jebu sade
yeah
cheza naming reason never say di yan jebu shemba den dawo chitengiyonas
jebu mari te kutsu chidan rigni di mang che rigni di dutsik pena ani naming jebu ani manjina ya jimbi riks neba Dindi Jaguars. The con the long the tema de sedi, come the long the tema de sedi, game me counter long the tema de sedi. The game me counter long tema de sedi, and the patch only game me counter him batch. Any long temas Jaguars.
So Annan asked about the definition of virtue, right? So the definition of virtue taken from collected topic says that which is indicated in scripture and abides as a type that issues forth happiness as its fruitional effect. So this terminology, this type of terminology that first of all refers to that which abides as a type. To abide it as a type, by type means that if it's by type something that issues forth a fruitional result, it might do that or it might not do that. Even if it doesn't do that, by type, it is that which issues forth a maturational result. That is part of the aspects or the the defining characteristics of virtue, right? So it either issues forth a maturational result, or even if it doesn't do that, it is a type of something that issues forth a maturational result. That's to begin with. And then this, looking at the other part of the definition, that which is indicated in scripture. Well, the things that are indicated in scriptures, like, for example, virtues or non-virtues, right? So with respect to the definition of virtue, it was something that was indicated in scripture. Also, non-virtues was indicated in scripture. Actually, those things that were indicated in scripture are either virtues or non-virtues. So that's the first step of definition. It was indicated, it was taught in scripture, and it is by type something that issues forth a positive or a white maturation. I think that this gives rise to more question. All right, that's another question.
Penang dio rasta pena the kongro di gewan jomshi ki and yudukshu the kongro ras ra the kejing nibalaya kongtrin jombang ki give some namin the gewa yanza namin dewan jinji risk never chagoras in a ko kejing niba kongtrin jombang yanza namin manjiba ko chom drogyo gewa joras. O dita wadi that risk never the remado jingo mares. And then it was Shan.
So just to go back to the first part of Geshe's answer, which referred to the part of the definition which said by type it is that which issues forth a white maturation, a positive maturation. So Geshe said that by type means that it issues forth happiness, or even if it doesn't do that, it is by type something that would do that. So why are we speaking about something that is by type of that thing? Well, we said that, for example, in terms of the things that destroy roots of virtue. Anger is that which destroys virtue. Actually, of those things that destroy virtues, it is the worst thing, anger. So suppose that you have created virtue, and virtue issues forth happiness as its result, right? But then anger can come along, and the second moment of anger, that virtue is destroyed, which means that it will not issue forth happiness. But still, by type, it is something that issues forth happiness, even though you could say that even though in that particular instant, it will not do so because it was destroyed by anger. Still, in general, that particular thing, virtue, is that which by type issues forth happiness. All right, so there is another question here by Shannon. Just to clarify, taking the Bodhisattva vows is considered the aspiring mind of enlightenment. Yet it is also when engaging mind of enlightenment starts. Is that correct? There is not a separate engaging vow. Chesandila Johnson Dombasa de Chiwatayan de Peche Gotungia said the Johnson Dombasa de Quran Monsam de Jayore. Chesandi Johnson Dombasa de Juksengi Dombarve Monsengi Dombare Kandechina.
Chanju sembi tomba. Sem kendita ani re chanju sembi tomba lembati. Tani di na yar tanda karsa ta pigi chi kung doji kuya na ani kanji chanju sembi tomba deres. Sem keba zammase di chedur. Ani Musshune, Dombalembati, teacher Boris.
Jaja, the Johnson Dombasa de la Jugdom de Lagera.
Jugdom Lara.
She's a Mensem Domba
Yomara.
So we speak about the Bodhisattva vow, right? The Bodhisattva vow is the vow of the engaging man of enlightenment. The aspiring man of enlightenment doesn't have a vow. So suppose that you have generated bodhicitta, then you can also make a commitment in terms of taking the bodhisattva vow. Now, but the bodhisattva vow is also called the engaging vow. There is no vow for the aspiring man of enlightenment, it is the engaging vow.
여러분 송는 지기에서 이 갑들 드라마서 그게 만들들이 다가랑데 야 아니 사서 샤상
Shall we leave it here for now? All right, so I'll put the prayers somewhere. Nyododa Lama Sangye Gyune Rawachi Kyamala Bate Sago Rinpoche Mali Panaki Dushi Only Kondo Beorashu Koe Shikansu Pendan Deva Malu Joe Shere Siwan Tenzin Gyatso Shape Sike Vato and Yuchi Jan Shin Jam Gun Gyawe Tenzin Gompe Goso Dogote Shosung Koe Lemon Ruju Ahada Sotu Kundu Shakti Shu. Thank you. See you too.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.